Aho, brothers of the axe. It's Joe. I'm out here in the shop tonight, getting a late start. It's probably about 9:40. So, um, getting a late start tonight, Wednesday night. Anybody that watched the previous video that I did, the Confessions of a Tool Hoarder, will know about this project. By popular demand, I'm going to be doing this Rixford single bit head here. Um, and it's going to go on this vintage 29-inch Haft. And I pulled this off an old Jersey. You can see here the lugs. And as I was looking at this too, this is actually a perfect example of what a lot of guys refer to when they talk about that shelf, that ninja shelf. You could see whoever hung this axe really just let the head cut its way onto the shoulder there. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like a prominent ledge here on the back, and along with not as bad where the lugs were seated, but certainly, back here towards the heel of the tongue there, there's a prominent ledge, and you can already kind of see it splintering a little bit right there, but that's definitely a stress point, and that's usually where you see when the axes come cracking off the tongue like that. It's usually right at that ledge. So there's a little bit on the front and a little bit on the back. So gonna have to do a little bit of work here, tapering that off and sliding this axe further down on the shoulder. So we're gonna go past that and seat it a little lower on the shoulder. That's kind of roughly where I like to see my heads, somewhere like that. And I do believe this handle is going to be, the tongue of this handle is going to be a touch short for the eye. So I may pitch the head forward a little bit to accommodate, kind of close the hang a little, and I may wind up having to cross wedge. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So yeah, nice old 29-inch vintage Haft that I pulled off an axe. I'm not exactly sure which one or when I pulled it off of, but it does have a little bit of splintering here on the palm swell that I think I'm going to partially leave and partially try to smooth over, maybe with the spoke shave and possibly maybe a palm sander or something like that, but we'll address it. So that should be pretty good. And then the head itself is in pretty nice shape. It's got very light stamping, but it's a Rixford. I want to say that it's either stamped R40 or R50 in the corner. Rixford, I believe, went defunct in 1951, but unfortunately, Yesteryear Tools, I'm not sure what's going on with that site. If anybody can shed some light on that, I'd love to hear. But that site is down, and it doesn't appear to ever be coming back, which is it's a real shame, because they had quite a bit of information that I can't seem to dig up on the internet. But from forums that I've read and things like that, it seems like they stopped doing the overcoat bits in the 20s or 30s. But this is clearly, to me anyways, is an overcoat axe. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it's either R40 or R50, but either way, it seems like they had been doing not doing overcoat axes for at least 10 or 20 years before this axe was forged. But it's got a little damage around the top of the eye that I'm going to have to address, and I'm going to probably hit that with a file first and see what I can do with just hand tools. And then maybe come in there with a ceramic bit on the Dremel, and then for sure go around the bottom like I usually do, and chamfer the inner part of the eye to kind of combat some of that cutting down and shelving of the tongue of the Haft when I seat it. But overall, it's in pretty decent shape. Slightly toed here, but the bit's pretty full. A little bit of mushrooming on it. Not too bad. Nothing that I'm going to address. Somebody did bang on the top of the head a little bit. I'm assuming to get it seated at one point on the haft. So, the iron is a little dinged up here. And I don't know if I'm going to address that with a file. I kind of don't want to see that shiny part of the metal. Even if I went back and blued it, you can always kind of tell. So at least when I do it, there are some real magicians out there when it comes to doing that stuff, and I am not one of them. But should be a good little project. And I think I'm going to, like I said, I got a late start tonight, so I think I'm going to just do a little bit of metal work tonight before I head in for the night, and just try to address the mushrooming on that eye just a little bit. So I'm going to switch camera angles and get to it. So as I file the inside of this eye, it's quite a bit softer iron in the eye than on the bit. And most of you axe guys, anybody that's watching this channel probably already is well aware of that. But for anybody that's new to hanging axes and this hobby, oh shit. Alright guys, sorry, technical difficulties, the camera fell over. So anyway, like I was saying, the steel on the inside of the eye is a lot softer than the hardened bit, so this stuff comes off pretty quickly with even just a hand file here. Try not to go at these things with power tools if at all possible, but yeah, like already, just with a few minutes of, not even a few minutes, of working it with this single cut file. There's a, yeah, it's just a single cut. Good old Simmons, USA made, like 10-inch bastard file. And as I'm going at this, I've heard conflicting advice, but as I'm going at this, I'm trying not to put pressure on this file on the backstroke. From everything that I've been taught, and read online, files really only are supposed to cut in one direction. So I try to avoid putting a lot of pressure on the backstroke. But then part of me wonders, it sort of conflicts with the whole draw filing method, where you're kind of, I guess, taking the file sideways. So I'm not 100% sure. I do know that if you keep your files clean with a file card, certainly they'll stay cutting. So I try to always card my files after use. Just try to throw a little chamfer on there, kind of get rid of the ugly sort of peening. Because like I mentioned before, the area behind the hardened part of the bit is significantly softer. So, a lot of times guys will slam on these heads with hammers and things like that to try to seat them on the head, and winds up mushrooming the top part of the axe, which is, I don't know, just kind of unsightly, I guess. Functionally, it's probably not a big deal, but nice old axe, want to do it justice here with this project. So Yeah, just kind of throw a little chamfer on there to just get rid of, or at least break up the mushrooming just a little bit. And this isn't near as bad as some of the axes I've seen over the years. I'm sure everybody's got their stories of some really, really bad axes that they've seen. Actually, here, hold on a second. I got a bad one for you. Check this guy out. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's not that bad. What are you talking about, Joe? Wow. Wow. Like, what the hell is going on there? I think this, oddly enough, for having a humongous crack in the side of the eye, it's really not mushroomed all that badly. But, yeah, this was cracked pretty bad when I got it, and it's only gotten worse because, clearly the head is useless as an axe now. So I've been just sort of using it as a wedge, just trying to rive some billets out for axe handles. So it's now just basically a dedicated wedge until it finally breaks, and then I don't know what I'll do with it. I'll probably just throw it away or something. But I think that's all it's going to take. I think, yeah, that's not bad. Honestly, that's not too bad. And I may go back on the top part of the head here and maybe try to chamfer that just a little bit more, and then blend it, blue it and blend it a little bit. But I got this axe in a trade with a buddy of mine that's local to me here in PA, a guy named Alex. Good dude. And I don't even remember what the trade was. Oh, I remember. I had an American axe and tool, and I think a double oval Craftsman that with bevels on it that I traded him for this Rixford, and really nice stiletto. I actually have it. I'm gonna have it sitting out. Really nice embossed stiletto swamping pattern, which will be a project for another day. But sweet axe. I'd been looking for a main wedge, and I had been looking for another swamper. So I had not had a main wedge, and I had a few swampers, but I had let them all go. So I was looking for another swamper for the collection, and looking for a wedge. And while I don't think this is a wedge, actually I was looking at a catalog tonight, a Rixford catalog that I found on Baryonyx blog, and I think it was like a catalog from like 1947. And I downloaded the file, and I'll overlay it here. But I'm thinking this is either what they were called a New Dayton pattern, or possibly the New England pattern. So it's always difficult with those old catalogs to like really, because they're illustrations, they're not photos. Like at that time, you weren't seeing a whole ton of photography in catalogs. It was usually like illustrations. So it was just an artist rendition of what one of the shape of one of these heads was. But I'm thinking this is either what they're calling a New Dayton or a New England pattern. I'm leaning more towards New England based on the blockiness and the wedge profile that it has. So while it may not be a true, main wedge or half wedge, it's a good old New England axe and possibly a New England pattern. I know Iron Ox was saying that he thought it might be like a Wisconsin or like a modified Wisconsin, and there was one of those in the catalog too. It looked a little different. It had a little bit more rounded heel and toe, but you very well may maybe right there with that. So I'm gonna I think I'm going to go ahead and try to seat this on the handle and see where we're at. So let me just see where we're at here, guys. Yeah, this already slides on. Alright, so we're going to have to do a little bit of work straightening it out because it's not in there straight. But we're already about halfway through the eye, and I haven't even modified the tongue yet. Yeah, she's sitting just a little crooked on there, but not too bad. Alright, well, let me knock this handle out of the head and chuck it up in the vise here, and we'll start taking off some wood. So here's a trick for, some of you guys might know this already, but when you're trying to fit a head onto a darker haft or like like a dirty old haft like this where it's not abundantly clear where your axe is rubbing because it's not new wood, you could see here I've got, can you see? Let's see. I've got some rub marks here that are pretty obvious because what I've done is, yeah, you can see that. See right there? What I've done is before I fit the head, I just take a carpenter's pencil lead, and I just go in there and I just mark up the inside just to make sure that there's something that's going to leave residue on the handle. And the inside of the eye usually has plenty of dirt and grime and rust and everything like that to do so. But the nice thing about the pencil lead is it'll sheen. There's a sheen to it, a shine in the light, and you can very, very clearly see the rub marks. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up or not, but there's a definite shine that I'm seeing here live. So just a little tip. Let's see where we're at. Fit number 2. All right. So we're almost through the top of the eye. Still have a ways to go down though. Like I said, I'm going to fit this thing right down on the shoulder here. Yeah, right down. It's be a good swinging axe though. And then as far as the grind goes, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it. I'd like to take it back and thin this edge out a bit. I've never really been like, a mad scientist when it comes to sharpening axes. I kind of just go freehand, and there's not a whole lot of, angle or anything like that I'm specifically shooting for. I just kind of go with what feels right. But my buddy Kevin was showing me the gauge that he had picked up recently, and I think I want to grab one of those. And what he did confirm. I can't remember whether it was 17.5 or 15, whatever it was. But I had sent him an axe, and it was 15 degrees, I think, right on the money, which was pretty cool. So, but yeah, I'd like to make this a chopper, and then I think just by, you know, sheer profile here, this wedgier profile, it will in turn also split decently. All right, let me bang this off and keep fitting it down. All right, guys, so we are at the top of the eye. We're dead flush with the top of the eye, but I still got quite a ways to go. I would say easily 3/4 of an inch. I want to sink this sucker down, but I think I'm done for tonight. Just want to show you the progress, and it is definitely a lot straighter on that half now than it was. Bit alignment is looking pretty good. Yeah, this will be a nice one when it's all said and done, and the fact that it's on a vintage Haft too is pretty cool. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this. Maybe, I don't know if I'll take the, you know, some of the, I mean, I would hate to take the patina off the wood, but there's a couple areas here that, like, there's one area here that's got a little hanger there. Just kind of a little chunk out. There's just the slightest little bit of an overstrike here up at the top, and then obviously the palm swell is going to need a little bit of work, specifically back here. So I'm wondering if I shouldn't just take the whole thing down a little bit with the spoke shave, and then just, you know, come in with a, you know, a nice couple, maybe like 3 or 4 coats of oil. I think it's still going to have that nice old patina to it, even if I take off the top layer with the spoke shave. But I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But what's going on, guys? So I'm back out in the shop working on this Rixford here. Did a little bit more work on the tongue. Got that head seated down a little bit more. I'm on my 4th fitting, I want to say. So I've got a ton sticking out of the top, ton of tongue sticking out of the top. But I want to get this head closed, the hang closed off just a little bit. And if you're not familiar with the term open hang, closed hang, neutral hang, so basically really what that means is, if you look at the way the axe head sits in relation to the handle, you know, a neutral hang would basically be about a 90 degree angle. Like the bit would be 90 degrees, let's just say, or I shouldn't say the bit, let's just say the top part of the axe, the top flat part of the axe would be sitting at around 90 degrees on a neutral hang. An open hang, it would be up just a little bit more. So it would pitch up like that. Closed hang, it would pitch down slightly. And I have been taught or learned from somewhere, here, let me grab a board, show you. So this would be easier to show. I guess this would be easier to show from a profile view, but I'm going to show it vertically. So essentially what you want to do to determine, you know, the proper, I guess the proper relation of your axe head is take a flat board, tabletop, something like that, and sit the axe head against the board like this with the, can you see that? With the palm swell sitting on the table or board. And basically what you're looking for is the middle to slightly below the middle of the bit should be hitting the table. And that's how you know, can kind of gather whether or not, you know, your hang is right in relation to, you know, in relation to the handle. And I can't remember where I learned that or saw that on a video. If I can think about it, maybe I'll insert that. But I don't know. It's always worked well for me. So right now we're kind of sitting maybe slightly above the middle. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess in relation, we're probably okay. If I go by what I just told you guys, I'm sitting here contradicting myself. But I definitely want to sink it down a little bit more on the shoulder. because I've got just a slight gap here in the back, and that might be a little bit of the way the head is forged and just a little bit of like trying to fit an old Haft into you know, a head that it wasn't hung on originally. So not a ton of gappage really anywhere else, just at the back. So, but that should be eliminated, you know, as the head seats further down, it kind of tapers back here on the tongue. So I'm going to keep working it down. You guys don't need to see that process over and over and over. So I'll get it fitted down maybe another, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch or so. I'm going to try to pitch that head forward, honestly, if anything, just for looks. So I think I got the head seated down right about where I want it. One of the things I wanted to try to do is kind of undercut this area just a little bit, just a little thick up here. Like when I make my handles, I like to have a little bit more of a curve here. So I'm going to go with a spoke shave and just take a little bit of meat off the back of this. And I'm not too worried about the patina because already I took this to the belt sander to try to get rid of this gouge. So I'm not worried about the patina. I'm going to kind of work on this handle and get it to fit how I want it to fit. I'm going to have to address, you know, the palm swell anyway. So the patina, unfortunately, is going to be spotty at this point. So I'm going to get it, you know, how I want it, tune it up. The reason why I'm doing this before I fit the head on for the final time is just to minimize the, you know, the wear and tear on this handle, this old handle here, you know, because it's, I mean, I don't know. It can't be great for it to keep on slamming into the head, slamming it back out of the head. I mean, I'm going to get rid of a lot of, you know, I'm going to cut off the top end, but, you know, just from hitting the top of it with the drift to drift it back out of the head after I'm done, just kind of chews up the top of the handle. And we've also got a little bit of splitting going on in the front. So you got to be very ginger with these old handles. I mean, especially ones that aren't in phenomenal shape. So, you know, I've done, I mean, I don't know. I mean, easily a dozen, maybe 20 or so, you know, I guess retrofitting old handles to other heads. And yeah, you definitely have to be a little bit more ginger than you would with a brand new hickory handle from, you know, House Handles or Whiskey River or something like that. But I think the structural integrity of this handle is still good. I would just hate to chunk out a big part of it or whatever, just, you know, fitting it on and off again. So I'm going to get this thing chucked up in the vise, and what would be the best way to go about this? Like that. Yeah. Really what I'm trying to do is just reshape the profile, not so much take any width off this area. I just want to kind of like I said, just sort of undercut it a little bit. Just kind of thin it out. I don't like the way this is chucked up here. Just chuck it up by the head, or the tongue rather. And nice and easy. And I don't want to go crazy. Just want to take a little bit of meat off that area back there. And like I said earlier, I think I might just take the spoke shave to this whole handle very lightly and even out the patina, because now, I mean, at this point I'm kind of down to, as you can see here, not, I wouldn't say, you know, like a brand new looking handle by any means, but it definitely has lost a lot of that patina, which kind of stinks. But maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of see if I can blend the old patina and some of the newer areas together before I go ahead and spoke shave the whole thing. Yeah, that's already feeling a lot better. You know what would be cool is to octagonalize a handle. I've had some octagonal handles before, but they've all been either vintage ones or done by House Handle. House Handle offers that octagonal service, which is really cool. To my knowledge, that's the only handle company out there that is offering that. I don't believe Whiskey River is offering that yet. It would certainly be a cool thing if they did. Yeah, I mean, I know Whiskey River is kind of thought of as a step above House Handles, but I think House Handle definitely has their place for sure. I mean, if I was doing a premium build and I wasn't in a position to make my own handle, I'd probably definitely get a Whiskey River Haft for a House. But you can do some nice stuff with the House handles. As they come, they're a little thick, but I have made some really nice axes with a House handle, and I have seen some phenomenal looking Hafts that some other guys have done using the base as a House handle. There's one gentleman who posts regularly on Bushcraft USA that likes to rework House handles and just does a really, really nice job. And can't recall what his username is, but he does a really nice job. Yeah, this is already feeling way better. Just try to blend that in a little bit with some sandpaper. Yeah, I like that. I like to be able to choke up on the head of the axe. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but if I can't really get up there on the head, it just doesn't really feel right to me. And I don't have huge hands. I wear like a large or an extra large glove. I've got short little fingers. I've got little sausage fingers, but I like to be able to close my hand around it up here at the neck of the haft. So yeah, I'm thinking we'll do all the woodwork, and then I'll get in there and I'll file a rudimentary edge on that head, get the geometry square on that head. Well, not square, I'm gonna get the geometry correct, I should say, on that axe head, and then we'll seat it, hopefully for one last time. Like I said, just to minimize the wear and tear. Jesus. The saw fell. All right. Almost wonder if I couldn't maybe just use some wood glue and sawdust to fill that little gap. And then back here, I'm not sure what the best course of action is yet, whether it's to hit that with the spoke shave or just kind of take it on the slack area of the belt sander and try to round it over a little bit. Or do I just leave it alone? I don't know. Because it's chunkage, and there's a little split. I don't know, maybe I try to pry that split back and throw some wood glue in there and clamp her up. Not sure what I'm going to do there yet. All right. Got a little hump here I think I want to take out. Right there. Right there. Nice, nice, nice. Ooh, that feels nice. Ooh, brother, that feels nice. Like that. And just further kind of contour this area here. I've lost the patina at this point, so I might as well. Anybody ever octagonalize a handle like in their shop? How did you do it? I think the way Haft does it is with a hardcore belt sander of some kind. But if you guys have ever done one, how did you do it? I've always been a fan of the octagonal handles. Unfortunately, do I? No, I've never been able to hang on to one that I've done that's had an octagonal. I do have an old vintage, it's like a half octagonal. It's octagonal down towards the knob end, and up towards where the head would be, it's oval. I think part of it is a little tore up is the only thing. It's not in the greatest shape in the world. It's also 36 inch, which I'm 5'7", so a 36 inch handle kind of stinks for me. It's a little too long. I've only met a few people that have ever, said they preferred a 36 inch. And I'm not sure where 36 inch became the standard at some point. But like, I mean, these days, if you find an axe handle in a hardware store or a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something like that, 99.9% of the time it's going to be 36 inch, unless it's a boy's axe. And I'm just not sure when that became the standard. Like, because I think what's the average height for a man in the United States? What do they say, like 5'9", 5'10"? Probably not even 5'10". You're pretty tall if you're 5'10". Probably 5'8", 5'9", I would say. 36 inches, I would feel like pretty tall. I mean, a pretty long handle for a guy 5'8", 5'9". So, I'm not sure what committee decided that 36 inch was the way to go. Now I've taken these old vintage Hafts with a lot of patina. I've taken them down on a sander before, and you'd actually be surprised, as light as this is now, you'd be surprised at actually how nice the patina will come back with just a little coat of oil. Obviously it'll never be like it was, but this will be a good looking handle once I throw some oil on this thing. All right, take a quick commercial break here. I'll chuck that head up, and maybe we'll look into grinding a rudimentary edge on this Rixford. Get her a little tight there. Yeah, right away I can tell this is some good steel. This is a pretty good file, in relatively good shape, and it's not skating off the steel, but it's definitely not cutting into it like butter or anything. Probably have mentioned this already. This is my first experience working on a Rixford before. I've had a buddy that's a major collector in the area, and I've handled some Rixfords at his house before. Played around with some really nice ones over the years. Actually, I got this one from him, but never got the opportunity to work on one, file one. So this will be a cool one to add to the collection that I wouldn't anticipate I'd be wanting to get rid of this one. Not unless the opportunity for a pretty cool trade presented itself anyway, but this is kind of an interesting one for me. Chuck this thing out in the vise here. One of these days I gotta make myself just a dedicated set of soft jaws. For now, just kind of keep using just scrap leather. Yeah, it seems like the harder the steel is, the more you really got to wrench down on the vise, because, you know, the harder the steel is, the more, you know, sort of ass you got to put behind when you're filing. There we go. It's cutting nice. So I don't really, I've said it before. I've said it a million times now. I'm like a broken record, but I'm not a master sharpener. By any means. I'm not a master axe filer, axe grinder. But when I kind of grind my initial bevel in, I, just kind of try to work on the geometry of the bit, and then also kind of work on, apexing the edge as I go. I don't really have any, set method or anything like that. I'm kind of sporadic with the way I do things. If you haven't already gotten that gist. And this one's towed just a little tiny bit, so it's a little fat up here at the toe. But I'm not going to play around with the profile. of this axe. It's very, very minor how it's towed, so no sense in taking any more of the bit off than necessary. Just kind of thin this edge out a little bit, and then flip it over and just sort of work on apexing it. And then I'll do all the final, you know, the actual sharpening of it once it's hung. And as you can see, you know, I mean, I kind of bounce around a little bit from, you know, draw filing, push filing, you know, with the bit, against the bit, or, you know, towards the head, against the head, you know, kind of like a, I guess you'd say this is like a stropping stroke almost. I'm not sure what the technical term for it would be. So I've been trying to do kind of a mix between like more of the long form, you know, just jabbering over, working on the axe, and then I feel like some of the more repetitive stuff I've been trying to speed up a little bit. So if you guys kind of like that, let me know. Really just trying to kind of hone this video making craft here. Was looking back on the videos that I did, the first couple of videos I did, and you know, definitely feel like I'm coming along in my video making capabilities. All right. Oh, damn. I hit up Harbor Freight recently and I bought a bunch of wet dry sandpaper. I replenished my depleted stock of wet dry. So I think when I put the final edge on this, I'll do the rooster method. I made this a couple days ago. I don't have one of the drywall sanders. And I've been looking in thrift stores and things like that. I just don't want to spend the 15 or 20 bucks or whatever they're going for on a brand new one. But I kind of took just like a foam, one of those foam flooring things, and I just attached it to, I just made like a little paddle, and eventually I'm going to get some larger scrap of leather and make a strap on one side, and then foam backed for the sandpaper on the other. I just got to find a method to attach the sandpaper to it. I think I'm going to use like binder clips or something maybe. Once I get this thing cooking, I'll show you guys. For now, it's sort of just a prototype. Come on. And I'm going to just do the same thing on this side as I did on the other side. So I think I might cut it here, and I'll get back to you when I move on to our next task. All right, guys, so I think I'm going to try to address the chunkage here with the spoke shave. Actually, Maybe the rasp is the way to go about it. I want to avoid the Shinto just because I feel like the teeth on that thing might grab and tear out even more. Yeah, this is definitely a crack here. So I'm thinking what I might do is throw a little wood glue in this thing once I get this thinned out just a little bit more, because I can actually hear that it's not solid. You can probably hear that too. And actually what I may do is glue that up and maybe build up just a little bit of the wood glue with sawdust around here. Just kind of build up a little bit of just kind of build up a little bit of filler. We'll just call it filler, kind of like Bondo or something, right? Like build it up just like Bondo, get this structurally sound with the wood glue in the crack. You can see that there's just a little crack. Get that structurally sound, put a little Bondo, wood Bondo, whatever you call it, and then sand it back down, because this side is actually pretty much fine. There's just some chunks missing here, so it's going to make the handle a little lopsided, but should be all right. All right, so what do we do? Yeah, unfortunately, I think I got to glue this up tonight and get back at you at a later point. The one thing that I have learned in over a decade of doing this is you never want to rush these projects. When you rush these projects, it's when you wind up with results that you're not super happy with. So I think I'd rather do this the right way, and the video will just take a couple more days longer to release. So I'm gonna glue this up. I'll show you guys. I guess I'll get back with you guys like once the finished product is there. All right, guys. So I think I'm gonna try to address the chunkage here with the spoke shave. Actually, maybe the rasp is the way to go about it. I want to avoid the Shinto just because I feel like the teeth on that thing might grab and tear out even more. Yeah, this is definitely a crack here. So I'm thinking what I might do is throw a little wood glue in this thing once I get this thinned out just a little bit more, because I can actually hear that it's not solid. You can probably hear that too. And actually what I may do is glue that up and maybe build up just a little bit of the wood glue with sawdust around here. Just kind of build up a little bit of just kind of build up a little bit of filler. We'll just call it filler, kind of like Bondo or something, right? Like build it up just like Bondo, get this structurally sound with the wood glue in the crack. can see that. There's just a little crack. Get that structurally sound. Put a little Bondo, wood Bondo, whatever you call it, and then sand it back down. Because this side is actually pretty much fine. There's just some chunks missing here. So it's going to make the handle a little lopsided, but should be all right. All right, so, what do we do? Yeah, unfortunately, I think I got to glue this up tonight and get back at you at a later point. The one thing that I have learned in over a decade of doing this is you never want to rush these projects. When you rush these projects, it's when you wind up with results that you're not super happy with. So I think I'd rather do this the right way, and the video will just take a couple more days longer to release. So I'm gonna glue this up. Show you guys. I guess I'll get back with you guys like once the finished product is there. All right. So I know it almost seems counterproductive to exacerbate the crack by wedging it open like this, but I want that glue penetration, you know, as deeply in those fibers as possible. So by extending the crack just a little bit with a wedge, I'm able to really get that glue down in there for the glue up, instead of just you know, more of like a surface level. So I kind of have to break it just a little bit more in order to fix it, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you're doing these glue ups, there's no other option but to just get in there with your fingers. Get a little messy. Whoop. So then what I'm going to do is just kind of fill these low spots with wood glue and get a little sprinkling of sawdust. Let's see. Actually, nice sprinkling of sawdust. Kind of mix. Oh, get those shavings out of there. Mix that up. Magic fairy dust. And I'm not too worried about, you know, what this is going to look like, because for the most part I think we're going to sand most of this filler off anyway. And there goes the fool pup back at it, chasing the rabbits or barking at the neighbors. Her two favorite pastimes. All right, and where's the clamp? Where's the clamp? Yeah, usually I don't recommend doing a wood glue up with these pistol grip clamps like this, but I can't find my my other ones. How are we going to do this? Let's see. There we go. And you want to see the glue squirt out the joint. That's when you know that you've got sufficient clamping. There we go. All right. So we'll leave that to dry. Probably tomorrow. Tomorrow night I'll get back at this. This should be wrapped up by tomorrow night. Once this is dried, I'm just going to throw a final sanding on this handle, kind of get everything a little bit more even. We'll set the head. We'll make a wedge. We'll wedge it. And I might even do some swinging of this thing this week. I have to get a bunch of fill for the bottom of a raised garden bed that I built my wife on Mother's Day. So, you know, it's like I don't know, it's like 3 feet tall or something like that. And I don't want to have to buy that much topsoil to throw in it. So we're going to just use a bunch of like, you know, old, you know, branches and trunks of trees and stuff like that from the woods behind our house to just kind of fill the space in the bottom. So yeah, maybe I'll use this to chop up some fill. All right. What's up, guys? So the glue dried and I wound up cleaning up the edge of this knob end as my wife was out here chatting with me. She didn't want to be on camera, so I didn't get much of that. But it just actually turned out really good. The filler worked pretty good. I think I might do a second round of that and then take it down again. But yeah, the filler worked good. I just went at this with the spoke shave very lightly, just to get off all the high spots and the sort of the nastiness from the glue and everything. And yeah, I think it worked out pretty good. And I'm pretty sure at this point, I've done a lot of work down here towards the tongue. And the fawn's foot has had a lot of work done to it. I think at this point it probably makes sense to just take the whole patina, you know, this old patina that's still remaining. Just take this off at this point, just so the handle's a nice even color when I go to finish it. So I think I'm gonna work on doing that now, and then we'll seat the head, wedge it, and take a look at the final product. All right, guys, and just like that, we got most of that old patina knocked off, and it's nice and evened out. And I think this is going to take oil really well. I'm going to hit this with some 60 grit just to get some of the tooling marks from the spoke shave off of it. But man, I think this is going to take oil really well. Cool, cool. All right, guys. So we got the head hung. We got her wedged, and she is just about done. Just getting ready to do a quick oiling for the grand reveal here. Took a nice pretty fat wedge. Didn't quite fill the front of the eye. It's kind of a I don't know, oblong shaped eye, very kind of long and narrow towards the front. So I kind of had my suspicions that it was going to be difficult to fill that. But overall, pretty decent hang. Like I mentioned before, whenever you're retrofitting an old Haft like this into a head that it wasn't originally hung on, they never quite go as well as planned, but man, this thing feels great. I took down all the old patina just to match everything, and I think this thing is going to take oil very well. So let's find out. Yep. As I suspected. Man, that looks good. Camera's not really even doing this justice. This is like a really, really nice sort of golden chestnutty color. And I'm assuming it'll only darken with each subsequent layer of oil here. I'm not sure what I used to wedge this. Some sort of hardwood for sure. Possibly maybe a locust or something. There's just a scrap of hardwood I had lying around that I cut a wedge from. But yeah, it took a nice fat wedge, so that's good. And I got the primary grind done on it. Gonna go back and, give it a final sharpening. This is gonna be a really nice swinging axe though. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm gonna have to chop some stuff up to fill the raised garden bed. So probably I'll wind up taking this axe out and maybe shooting some more video. At this point, I've done basically no axe usage on this channel. So, definitely as the summer progresses and I'm doing a little bit more camping and, a little bit more axe work, I'll try to film some of that as I can. Man, this handle feels great though. I'm thinking that I might want to use this, trace this out, and use this as a template for a future build. Possibly maybe modify it a little tiny bit. Maybe try to shrink the dimensions from like well, actually, let's measure this. I believe it was 30 inches or 29 inches when we started. I took a good bit off the end as I seated this down. Okay, yeah, so I took about a ½ inch off it, so it's final length 29.5 inches, and this is a 3.5 pound head. And for me at 5'7", this is just about the perfect combination for me. If I had my way, I would probably choose maybe a 28-inch handle. But 29.5 inches, I'm not going to complain about. Yeah, so we're going to get a nice edge on this guy and go do a little chopping. The palm swell wound up coming out pretty decently. I mean, that's slightly ugly, but, nice old handle, nice old head. Can't beat it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming along on this one. This is probably the longest video I think I've ever done. I've definitely edited down some parts, and I've definitely fast-forwarded through some some repetitive parts too. So anybody that's made it this far, thanks for sticking around, and thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all the views and anybody that's liking and commenting and subscribing. Appreciate you all, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.